Welcome to my review of Colossos Kampf der Giganten, the massive Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster located at Heide Park. The ride was built in 2001 and closed for the 2016 season. Now, in 2019, it reopened in April, retracked and rethemed. It is a very good coaster, but there are a few things that aren't that great, so this is my entire review. But let's get into the stats first. The ride opened as the world's first Intamin prefabricated wooden coaster and sits at an impressive height of 164 feet, which is 50 meters. And it has a drop of 159 feet, which is 48.5 meters. The first drop has an angle of descent of 61 degrees. And it has a track length of 4,409 feet, which is about 1,350 meters. It has a top speed of 68.4 miles per hour, which is about 110 kilometers per hour. I rode it a few times before the retracking and now 4 times after the retracking. And the retracking was pretty solid. Before the retracking it was kinda rough, but after the retracking it's smoother than most steel coasters. It's buttery smooth. It does not feel like a wooden coaster anymore. But because it's so smooth, it's a little bit of a downside because it misses this wooden coaster feel. And for a ride this large, it really just feels like there is something missing. So it's a little too smooth. Now let's get into the POV. Once you're at the top, take a right-hand turn. It is not quite 180 degrees, but almost. And from up there you have actually a pretty good view. And now for the drop. In the front row the drop is way too tame, but in the back row you get some solid floatjector airtime. Then down here it's really fast, really fun. Then you get some nice floatjector airtime here. Also this part is pretty fun. And again some nice floatjector, but it could be stronger. Both airtimes could be better. Now there is an airtime here. This turnaround is pretty intense actually. That's a really fun part of the ride. Then this turn here, you don't get too much airtime in the front. In the back you get some airtime. This is a back row ride for sure. On this speed hill there is not any airtime at all. Now here are some brakes. You don't really feel them, but they slow you down. And this helix sucks. It's absolutely pointless. It just kills the pacing and it's not intense at all. And now you have some free back-to-back hills. They aren't that great, but here you have a nice head chopper moment with the fake track. And then you go into this massive Wickerman-alike stager. I'll talk about that now. After this turn, which is not really that impressive, you hit the brakes and the ride is over. Now let's come back to this theming and the stager. And this ride actually is now themed. Before the retracking and retheming it had no theming at all. This massive stager reminds me of the Wickerman stager, the GCI wooden coaster which opened in 2018 at Alton Towers. This stager is larger, but I actually don't think it's that impressive. It's cool, and with the fake track it's holding, it's looking impressive, and with the fire shooting out of its head it's pretty cool, but it's just only a short part of the ride, and inside the stager there is just a building, and that's kind of ugly, but it's still a pretty cool element. There is some theming in the queue line, but it's actually not that cool. It has a pretty good soundtrack that's played in the queue line the entire time, but the other elements of theming there aren't that impressive. The theming that's in the station is nice, but it's also not too cool, so that's a little disappointing. Now let's come to operations and capacity. With 2 trains and a good dispatch time, it can take about 1,030 people per hour, which is nice, but honestly it's still not that impressive for an Intamin this large, so with 3 trains it would be a lot better. And the actual dispatch times, they aren't that great either. I've seen many times where the second train had to wait on the brakes for quite a while, and with only 2 trains and a pretty long track length and a slow lift, okay, it's not that slow, but still, it's not that impressive, so get prepared for some long lines on a bad day. To sum this review up, is a good ride? Yes, but there are a few things I would change. The theming, I'm glad that it's themed. That's actually something they could keep. Without theming it would be even worse, so. But there are some things I don't really like. Sorry, said it's a little too smooth, so just a little wooden coaster rattle and bumpiness at some parts only would have been nice. Also, the helix is pretty damn stupid. It's just not intense and it's just forceless and it sucks. It kills the pacing. And another thing, I would wish that the airtime on this thing would be a lot stronger, because this float-ejector airtime is nice, but it's not that great. So this coaster is also a good example for a ride that does a lot of things well, but it's just missing a few things. So for a final score, it's getting a solid 8.5 out of 10. Maybe that sounds a little low, but still, it has high expectations and it exceeded most of them, but there are really a few things it lacks. But this is a good coaster, and if you're an enthusiast, you should definitely check it out. The on and off ride footage in this video isn't mine, and the soundtrack used is the Colossos soundtrack. Thanks for watching, bye.